mothership. By the way, there was 140,000 people on the mothership living there. The ship was about 17 miles high and about 10 miles in diameter. Looked a little bit like 5 golf balls all hooked together. Well, the ship left our area of the galaxy and went to someplace else. They had something to show Billy. Billy and Semjase got into one of the smaller ships, left the mothership, and went off on their own, because Semjase wanted him to see what World War III looked like on another planet. When they got close to the planet, Billy was looking at the screens inside of the ship, and Semjase was explaining to him that this planet down here is having problems similar to what's going on your own planet. One government against another, one nation, one brother against another. But it had gone a little farther on this planet. They were into their World War III. They were hurling giant missiles already at each other. Billy watched in terror almost on the screens as he saw people by the millions being killed. It was right in the middle of battle. He couldn't help asking Semjase, why don't you interfere? Why don't you get involved? She said, this isn't our section of space, and there is another race of people, which she showed him on another screen, that lives in this area that will be involved soon. They said it's important for us to know that they feel we have our own right to grow on our own, that they're not going to interfere in our right to do whatever we want to with ourselves. They would defend the planet. They wouldn't let us blow the planet up. But we have our own free will to do with our lives as we want. However, on this world, it was coming close to seriously damaging it, and this race of people had decided that they were going to interfere. As Billy watched, Semjase told him that the battle would end soon, that not any more would die, that within a few days they would come to their senses, the extraterrestrials who were in that area would make their presence be felt, and peace would come on that planet. But it would be peace on their own terms. It would be peace because they wanted peace. They would not be forced to by any extraterrestrials. As they watched on the screens, Billy noticed a runaway missile that had gotten off track, and it streamed right by the little ship they were in. And actually, it even rocked their ship a little bit, and Semjase had to grab the controls and get the ship back in control. It had bumped into the screens protecting the ship. As the very large missile hurled its way on out into space, Billy had to ask, are you going to allow that to happen? What's going to happen with that giant missile with that large warhead on it? She said, well, watch. Even as we speak now, Patah's ship is doing something about it. What he watched, he said, or what he saw was a little strange. They have a way of dealing with things like that that's a little beyond our science. Billy looked out the window, and he saw the giant missile hurling on into space, and as it passed in front of Patah's much larger ship, a very strange kind of liquid-looking energy came out of Patah's ship and engulfed the giant missile as it went by. Suddenly, the whole form of it went into a rectangular shape. It engulfed the missile, and it kind of froze in space there just for a second. And Billy said it's kind of hard to describe. That suddenly it just kind of crackled like an egg cracking and disappeared. Whatever energy they had put out engulfed the missile, broke it down into its own molecular structure, whatever, and it just disappeared. A fine way of dealing with it. Either that or it somehow exploded into itself. We don't really know. That technology is a little beyond us. So extraterrestrials do interfere at some point. Just like the Pleadians have told us, they would draw the line when we start to affect the planet, the solar system, or the universe around us. But we have the right of free will to do with ourselves as we please.
Billy and his family were awakened one night by this strange energy, strange light, whatever you want to call it. Billy went outside and took some pictures of it as it hovered over the parking lot in front of his house. It also awoke people all over the area. Billy only was able to run off 4 or 5 shots that night. He tried mentally to communicate with it, but received nothing. Later, when he asked Semjase what it was, she didn't know either. We could be looking at the first ever pictures of a collective consciousness, a group of people living in energy form.
Man should know that the God force is quite simply that of creation, and that man also, either coming from the higher spiritual spheres or being elevated to those spheres after numerous terrestrial lives, is subject to creation and respectively complementary to it. The higher he soars, the greater becomes his power. However, one can never identify God separately from the creation, because God itself is a part of creation.
If you had your own extraterrestrial to talk to, I'm sure you'd make a great list of questions to ask. High on my list, of course, would be, tell me a little bit about what you think of God. Do you have God on your planet, and do you have religion? What do you think of ours? You see, we've been confined to our planet all along here for several thousand years without influence from other races, as far as we know, and we've been left alone to kind of come up with our own forms of religion and belief structures. Of course, on this planet, you can travel to about any country and get a different idea of what religion or belief should really be. But what do the Pleadians think, and what are their concepts? To begin with, what we call a universe, they call a creation. Now, their science is far more advanced than ours, obviously. So they've learned a lot of things about the universe, how it's come together and so forth, that we need to know. It ties right in with a discovery of who we are and what's really going on. The Pleiadians have what they call the laws of creation, the discovery of how life started and what a creation is. These are valuable things for us, and it's going to make a major change on our planet as these sort of new principles work their way into our society. How will we adjust to that? How will the church and other people adjust to information that comes from these type of sources when they tell us what they saw when Jesus Christ was crucified, when the pyramids were built, when Moses parted the Red Sea? Or did the